For decades, Scandinavia has been known as a utopian region, but what does this really mean? Utopia, an imagined place or state of things in which everything is perfect. Sweden, Denmark, Norway and Finland have been viewed by many people as their version of a perfect country. They have topped socio-economic rankings for decades, including average income and output per person. GDP per capita measures this, and is calculated by dividing a nation's total GDP by its population. Norway currently ranks 4th in the entire world with this metric, boasting a GDP per capita of $92,000. Denmark also ranks highly at 9th, with a value of $68,000. While this could be interpreted as an average person's yearly income, it doesn't consider other human factors. The Human Development Index considers 3 main dimensions: health, measured by life expectancy; education, measured by mean years of schooling; and standard of living, measured by gross national income per capita. Each country is given a single numeric score between 0 and 1. In 2021, Norway ranked 2nd in the world with a score of 0.961. Denmark ranked 6th with 0.948, and Sweden were 1 place behind them with 0.947. These are incredible rankings, and at first glance give an indication that these countries are still among the best worldwide in almost all metrics. But is this really the case? Is this the reality that the Scandinavian people live in? Is Scandinavia a utopia, or even better, is it a socialist utopia? This is a trope that I want to quickly address. The narrative is notably pushed by left-leaning commentators using the nation's success stories as instruments for their argument that more powerful Western countries such as the USA should adopt its progressive policies. While Europe as a whole is undeniably more progressive than America, should Scandinavia be viewed as a socialist state? The short answer is a resounding no. A look into the region's history will give us an answer on how this became a common misconception, where the region stands now, and whether it is indeed a utopia. Historically, Scandinavian countries, particularly Sweden, did embrace socialism between the 1970s and 1990s. During this period, they implemented high tax policies and generous welfare benefits, forming what many consider a hallmark of socialism. Yet, this transformation came after a century of robust economic growth, characterized by small public sectors and free markets. For instance, Sweden's GDP surged approximately tenfold from 1870 to 1970, the highest growth rate in Europe. Industrialization played a pivotal role as these countries shifted from predominantly agrarian economies to vibrant manufacturing centers. Global trade became a driving force for growth. They exported a variety of goods, including timber, steel, and machinery. Also, the establishment of high-quality education systems produced a skilled and adaptable workforce, while a culture of innovation fostered technological advancements that bolstered global competitiveness. The transition to socialist values was closely tied to societal trust and responsibility, traits deeply ingrained in Nordic culture due to the necessity of collaboration in their challenging climate. High levels of trust historically supported large and generous welfare systems. However, this shift towards higher taxes and increased welfare led to economic stagnation. Particularly in the 90s, GDP per capita slumped. The expansion of the welfare state in the 1960s and 70s brought about extensive social benefits, high taxation, and significant government intervention in various sectors. While these policies aimed to reduce inequality and provide a safety net for citizens, they also posed economic challenges. Growth slowed partly due to the disincentives created by high tax rates. Innovation and entrepreneurship were stifled, which had a direct impact on overall productivity. The generous social programs strained government budgets as public expenditures soared, leading to fiscal imbalances that required addressing. As welfare expanded, there was a decline in the values associated with hard work and responsibility, and with it, public opinion shifted. Recognizing the limitations of socialist policies, Scandinavian countries embarked on a journey of reform and transformation in the late 20th century and into the early 21st century. These reforms centered on economic liberalization, reducing barriers to entrepreneurship and encouraging innovation. Lowering tax rates and promoting competition stimulated economic growth and dynamism. Recent years have witnessed a return to centrist policies in the Nordic region. Denmark and Iceland rank among the world's top 10 most capitalist nations, according to the Heritage Foundation's Index of Economic Freedom. Finland, Sweden, and Norway also perform admirably in this regard, even surpassing the United States in some aspects of economic freedom. In terms of electoral politics, Nordic social democrats have had to form alliances alliances with centrist parties to secure power. In Finland and Sweden, for instance, cooperation with centre-right parties has become common, leading to pragmatic policies that include tax cuts and business-friendly reforms. So here we are, present-day Scandinavia. The region has certainly been through a lot of ups and downs. Now it has arrived at a central economic model named the Nordic Model. While many still view this as the ultimate utopian system, it's time to pick it apart for what it has become, uncovering the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the good, or rather my subjective sense of good. The Nordic Model is a fusion of a globally connected, competitive market economy and a comprehensive welfare state. See it as them fully embracing free trade capitalism, while not fully letting go off their progressive roots. Arguably, the best part of this flexible model is the social benefits for its citizens. There are 7 key areas that Nordic countries excel on. First, free healthcare. Medical services are completely free in Sweden until the age of 20. Beyond that, if medical bills surpass a certain threshold, a high-cost coverage mechanism kicks in, providing care for the remainder of the year. Meanwhile, the average American pays approximately $11,000 annually for health insurance, often with no guarantee of comprehensive coverage. Medical bankruptcies, a rare phenomenon in the Nordic Model, plague the US with over 600,000 cases reported each year. Second, free education. From primary school to university, education is free, reducing the barrier to acquiring knowledge and skills. A huge difference to the US, where the student debt crisis has resulted in a trillion-dollar industry. Third, child allowance. Families receive financial support for each child until they reach the age of 18, easing the cost of raising a family. Fourth, generous maternity benefits. In the United States, new mothers typically receive just 12 weeks of paid maternity leave, one of the shortest durations among industrialized nations. Paid leave for fathers is often non-existent. In contrast, Sweden sets an exemplary standard, offering parents 480 paid days off, during which they receive 80% of their regular pay. Mothers can reduce their working hours by 25% until their child's 8th birthday. Families also receive a monthly child allowance until their child reaches 16. Job protection is guaranteed, even if parents choose to have additional children. Fifth, infrastructure. Nordic nations boast well-maintained roads, bicycle lanes, and an extensive public transport system, promoting mobility and reducing environmental impact. Sixth, parks and public spaces. Pristine parks, wilderness areas, public beaches, and open spaces are abundant, contributing to a high quality of life. Seventh, the workplace. Lower paid workers are treated noticeably better than its Western counterparts. Workers actively participate in decision-making processes, fostering a sense of teamwork rather than viewing themselves as mere cogs in a machine. Furthermore, the Nordic Model promotes low executive-to-worker pay gaps, ensuring a fairer distribution of wealth within companies. This contrasts sharply with the exorbitant salaries and bonuses seen among corporate leaders in the US and the UK. The Nordic Model prioritises the well-being of labourers. While US workers often work extended hours beyond the standard 40-hour work week, Nordic countries maintain shorter work weeks of 35 to 40 hours, demonstrating that reduced work hours can coexist with economic prosperity. Sweden even experimented with a 6-hour workday, yielding maintained productivity, happier employees, and fewer sick days. Generous vacation time and paid holidays further contribute to a healthier work-life balance. For instance, while the average Dane enjoys 25 paid vacation days per year, Americans typically take only 16 days of vacation, and many positions in the US lack paid holidays. Of course, all these wonderful benefits must be paid for somehow. This is where we get to the bad. Critics obviously point to the high tax rates. However, this is where we get into a debate on political personal preference. Would you rather pay high taxes for the multitude of societal benefits, or would you rather be left alone by the government, meaning that while you keep more of your income, you must fend for yourself when it comes to healthcare and work? This is the main line that separates right-wingers from the left. It causes huge divisions in America, with the right accusing the left of not using their brain, and the left accusing the right of not using their heart. So why not ignore this political fury and just go straight down the middle? That is essentially the Nordic Model at its core, a centrist system aimed at attempting to appease all sides of the political spectrum. But how easy is it to make everyone happy? The short answer, it is impossible. We can see this with its taxation system. In Sweden, for instance, the average worker pays approximately 32% in taxes to local and state governments. In the US, the median tax rate is around 14%. In Sweden and Denmark, extortionate tax rates are imposed for the highest earners. Sweden's top rate stands at 57%. and Denmark's at 56%, whereas the US top rate is 38%. An important distinction lies in the income threshold for these high rates. In Denmark, the elevated tax rate applies to those earning more than 1.3 times the average income. In US terms, this would equate to individuals earning approximately $65,000. In Sweden and Norway, income groups that earn less also face higher tax rates. Consumption tax, known as the value-added tax, plays a much more substantial role in revenue generation. The VAT is applied at various stages of production and distribution, so the product is taxed multiple times before it reaches the consumer. Corporate taxation is also significantly higher in Nordic countries. In almost every category, Scandinavia poses much higher rates than the US, though admittedly the tax structures hugely differ and are difficult to compare. Anyway, the right will always hate high taxes. They see it as a restriction to their economic freedom, viewing taxation as theft. They prefer smaller governments. An expanded government role can be viewed as intrusive and detrimental to individual liberty. There's also the argument that combining high taxes with high social benefits reduces the workforce's incentive to work hard, take risks, or invest in businesses. This could result in lower economic efficiency and lower overall economic growth in the long run. The left refutes all of this, believing that this system improves equality, looking after the society's vulnerable, and also you ultimately get what you pay for. But what if you don't get what you pay for? What if tax money is wasted? This ugly side can clearly be seen in Nordic countries in recent years. Here, government failures have caused a huge misallocation of resources, meaning the taxpayer is worse off, the vulnerable and low-income group is worse off, and society as a whole is worse off. What happens when you gain the image of a perfect society with near-limitless government benefits being handed out? Everyone now wants a piece of the pie. When it comes to immigration and integration, there is no Nordic model. There is the Swedish open door model and the Danish close the door and put up a go-away sign model, which the Norwegians and Finns are copying. In Sweden, immigration has completely altered the country's image. Following violent riots, the Swedish Prime Minister acknowledged that the country has struggled to integrate many immigrants who have settled there over the past 2 decades. She described Sweden as having parallel societies living in different realities. There is a coexistence of Islamism and right-wing extremism at play. Over the past 20 years, the number of foreign-born residents in Sweden has doubled, now constituting approximately 1/5 of the nation's population, totaling around 2 million individuals. Many on the right see immigrants as taking advantage of the generous welfare system, also bringing crime to the country. As a result, xenophobia has risen, as well as tensions between the parallel societies. Doesn't sound very utopian to me. The allure of the Nordic model stems from the idea of a utopian society. Nowadays, many people admire Nordic countries from afar, but do not actively seek to move there. Several reasons, including these racial tensions, contribute to this hesitancy. The Nordic region also has notoriously harsh weather, the highest taxes globally, exorbitant living costs, impenetrable languages, and a growing reluctance to welcome foreigners. One major misconception about Nordic countries is their image of being paragons of political correctness. While they do promote gender equality, there are still instances of racial stereotypes in the media and high rates of violence towards women. Also, despite their green image, countries like Denmark have high per capita ecological footprints and continue to rely on industries like shipping and coal. So I've laid out the good, bad and ugly of the Nordic model. It is up to you to draw conclusions on whether it truly is the utopian society it is known for. But for me, it is more important to look ahead to the future prospects of these nations. Are they on the downward path, or are they progressing as normal? A lot has happened in recent years, altering the course of these nations forever. The COVID pandemic caused a pause in production, eventually resuming with promising recovery forecasts. The Russian invasion of Ukraine caused an energy crisis with skyrocketing inflation across Europe. This has led to the admission of Sweden and Finland to NATO. As is most of the world, Scandinavia is witnessing aging populations and declining birth rates. These demographic shifts constrain healthcare and pension systems, while reducing the capabilities of the most productive workforce age groups. The world is rapidly evolving, and the Scandinavian economies must remain competitive in a globalized, technologically advanced system. Innovation has always been at the core of this region, so it is no surprise to see them invest heavily in artificial intelligence. But there are more pressing issues at play. As previously stated, Sweden must solve its issues with integration, as tensions between immigrants and protesters could spiral out of control. Although it has received praise for its free education initiative, the quality of education is average at best. This, combined with demographic issues, could plague the country's workforce in the future. Good, efficient government policies can provide the solution to most of these problems. Emphasizing STEM subjects in school is crucial for building meaningful skills. Comprehensive integration policies, including language acquisition programs and employment support, will foster social cohesion and reduce potential sources of division. The Scandinavian model has long been an inspiration, demonstrating the potential for societies to blend prosperity, equality, and sustainability. Despite all its problems, it seems that it still stands ahead of many other Western countries. The stats and rankings prove this more than anything. So, is Scandinavia still the world's utopia? Perhaps not exactly, but it may be the closest thing to it. Thank you for watching the video. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.